Okay. The Town of Groton Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting called to order. To a roll call, got Hal,
Here.
Michael,
Here.
Steve is absent, Kevin,
Here.
Lauren. Who's my extras?
Present.
Lauren, if you could sit for Steve, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you.
You know. So let's see, public communication. Just move along because we'll cover that later. Okay, new business. So this is the Groton 2035 work session. Normally, in case anybody's noticed, I kind of push things along a little bit. But tonight, we're just gonna kind of allow enough time, I think, to make sure we're covering everything because it's pretty dense and it's pretty extensive. And I think it was you, John, that said that the map's the most important thing. So want to make sure we have time to look at and talk about it and all that. So, and Jeff's here tonight. So if you want to take it away.
Use your fancy mouse to get the presentation up.
So you.
And again, as Jeff is preparing to speak, thanks everybody for coming. Again, it is tonight a dense thing that we're going to be getting through future land use map. And again, just a reminder that, the POCD is our vision document, our aspirational document. It's not going to force change to happen. The changes that we often think about, those are going to come later if and when we change the zoning regulations. Our POCD isn't going to get as specific as we want the setbacks to be 5 feet in this zone versus 7 feet. It's, a lot of big picture stuff. So, if the public's watching this or thinking about POCD in the future, again, kind of that big picture aspirational stuff that where we want to go, but it doesn't actually get us there. That's work that we'll do later. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Thanks. Next slide, please. Here. Yeah, as we've discussed, I think the primary focus for today is to continue the discussion on the future land use map. We've got a number of discussion questions to go through. The draft implementation matrix is in your packet. That was initially on our schedule to discuss in January. We will talk about that again in January, but we're a little ahead of schedule. Staff had reviewed it. We had a full draft, so we figured we'd get it to you now. So in terms of what we discussed tonight, really just want very high level, are you comfortable with the formatting? Are you comfortable with the general approach? Are there things missing from that draft that you would like to see? And then we can discuss the content in more detail in January. And then we want to take some time as well to discuss some of the responses to recent public feedback. So we'll take some time for that. Next slide. So just a quick reminder, and also as an update for anyone who may be watching from home. And as this conversation continues around the future land use map, really looking at 3 buckets of decisions. One, about what concrete land use changes the town is committed to making over the next 10 years, or areas where you expect things to remain the same, but things you're certain of that you want to put that flag in the ground. This is what we expect to have in the next 10 years. 2, potential land use changes that require more analysis over the next 10 years. And that's going to be a lot of what we talk about today. Which of those things you want to call out on the map as needing special analysis. And third, any other overlay layers. Right now, we're looking at roadways, climate considerations. In conversations with staff since our last meeting, the general direction has been to try to limit the number of additional overlays so that the map remains less cluttered and more easily interpreted. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
I know.
Okay, sorry.
No, I didn't know why it's there. You go. Nope. But that is it.
There. Yep. All right. So the first thing you see before you a draft map, a working draft map, and I really will emphasize that this is a working draft. Town staff continues to have edits. Obviously, NoInc is not represented here yet. We're working on the NoInc layers. So there are a number of details we're still working on. But the basic land use categories represented on that map are as we discussed as a body last month. We wanted to give you some more details on the residential categories and proposed densities within each of those. So as we remember, last month we discussed splitting the residential zoning districts basically into 4 categories: rural, low density, medium density, and high density. And those are all represented on the map before you. We wanted to put some concrete densities to those. So for rural, we're looking at 2 units per acre or less. And so, for example, on a 40,000 square foot lot, in the RU40 district, for example, this would represent 1 to 2 units, which is what you allow today. For the low density areas, we're generally looking at 2 to 4 units per acre, or up to 7 units per acre if there's public sewer and you're outside the floodplain. So this is part of that conversation that we've been having around the missing middle housing project. So for example, a 20,000 square foot lot, say the RU20 or the RS20, this would represent approximately 1 to 3 units. In medium density, we're looking at 3 to 15 units per acre. So if you apply that to say the R12 or the RS12 on an average 12,000 square foot lot, that would represent 1 to 4 units. And high density is more than 15 units per acre. And again, that high density is currently placed over where you have the RM districts today, that residential multifamily. And we're hitting some snafus with your data. We're trying to get you for every RM district what the existing residential density is. For most of them, it is well above 15 units per acre. So that's really on the low end of what exists today. We thought it was important to, for the high end, I think the current future land use map, that's 7 units per acre or more, which doesn't really reflect what you already have today. And again, to reiterate this body to anyone who may be listening here or watching at home, this does not mean that all of a sudden you're allowing that density everywhere that this is designated on the map. It means that you have the option as a body to update zoning over time that could accommodate the higher end of those ranges, or you could maintain what you have today, which is on that lower end. Next slide, please.
I just want to
Sure.
ask a couple of questions.
I have a
on this.
question.
You go ahead.
So my only point is, so I got a lot of this early and took a review on it. So what I didn't get is the analysis of the percentage of a house on, say, a 12,000 foot lot, like a half acre. What does the building represent, like 0.7 or something? You can't have more than a particular.
Oh, I did not bring the zoning reg, but there is a coverage.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So I couldn't, which coverage to me still is important because we've all held our feet to the fire. So I don't know whether we've made that analogy to the coverage at the same time. Therefore, it fills up a lot where 4 units could go up as long as it's within zoning, or it could be a coverage issue. I don't know.
But to Jeff's point, this is something you can consider if you consider zoning amendments.
Right.
And during that process is when you would start looking at, okay, what's the coverage? Does this really make any difference?
Yep.
Maybe we need to adjust the coverage as part of this.
Got it. Perfect answer. Thank you.
Yeah. So just again, in the beginning, my remarks about like vision, aspirational. Right now, we're looking to set general guidelines. It's not what we're doing now is not in itself going to change our zoning regulations. We're going to, if things are adopted, over the next 6-7 months, in the POCD, that's then going to set the framework for what we will try to adopt for regulatory changes over the next 10 years. I mean, there's a lot of things that we put in the POCD that unfortunately or fortunately, we don't end up changing as, time goes on.
Okay.
Well, just a couple of questions, starting off with the rural residential. That's basically, I guess, what we have now.
Yes.
If I'm reading this is correctly, which would be 1 unit plus, or 2 unit plus ADUs are allowed there.
ADUs are allowed there. The 2 unit captures the fact that in many of the in the RU zones, you can have a duplex.
Oh, okay.
So
So that would be good. Okay, and then the low density. Um. Right now, if I'm reading this right. Is it kind of we're allowing sort of a similar thing, 1 unit, 2 units, or ADU plus ADUs? And versus say 2 to 4 or 7 with public sewer? So in other words, do we really allow 7, for example, if it's on public sewer right now?
not right now.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure I
Right, but
understand.
this is,
Yeah.
again,
A range for
aspirational,
future, yeah.
right?
No, that's all well and good, but right
Right.
now, then on low density, we're really in the 2 categories still?
Right.
Not the 4 or 3?
Two different questions. I mean, right now, in the existing plan of conservation and development, it's 1 to 2 units per acre,
Okay,
some higher. But that doesn't necessarily reflect what the zoning allows.
One more quick question. How do we interpret the map with these residential densities for like the institutional? Do we assume that those institutional uses, if they're to be reused, would remain in that area, or is it just a different thing entirely?
So institutional is generally not going to be housing. Institutional is going to be schools, churches.
I mean, when they're, say, like some of these are like the Mystic Oral School is identified as future study. So how should we be looking at that?
So that's future study, which means that none of these categories necessarily apply there. That you think that something different might be beneficial there over the next 10 years, but you need to study it more.
Okay.
So that falls into that second category of things we're not ready to say definitively what it's going to be, but we want to study this over the next 10 years.
Okay.
I didn't know, I also noticed, by the way, because of what you were mentioning, kind of, but we have this government institutional. And it means lots of different things on the same map.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking like the landfill is the same thing as our schools. And maybe that's a tough one to track, but I do think that the Navy housing, yeah, it's government. It's housing.
We talked about that at the last meeting, and
And that's on
that's on the list
Yeah,
for
okay.
revision.
I missed it.
Yes, yeah, we did talk about that and agreed that we
Okay.
should call those out with densities.
That last one, that was government.
Absolutely,
Right.
but we agreed.
Yeah.
On this
Okay.
one, we're not gonna do that.
Okay.
We're not going from
Yep,
back and forth, let's not.
right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
and then medium density, I have to go over all these, sorry, but right now, what it's 2 to 7. Dwelling units per acre.
Yes.
In the current POCD.
So we've really kind of moved medium to low. I mean, at least, I'm not saying precisely, but maybe theoretically, as a possibility.
What was medium?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay, okay.
Has now
okay,
moved,
Okay,
right?
right.
And then.
under the condition
Certain
of you're making sure that
circumstances.
you're on public sewer and outside the floodplain.
Right,
Yeah.
and then medium density is now 3 to 15.
Yeah.
So was that like low density before, or that was not, I mean, it wasn't low, it's nothing, I don't know. No, I don't see that in low. I think that's when it starts to get a little more complicated. But I'll just, for now, I guess, I don't know, what would medium density? Let's see, have been 2 to 7 then? And now we're talking 3 to 15 as a possibility?
Right, 16, it was 2 to 7.
Okay,
And even within that new range, that's pretty level set against what missing middle we have now.
Yeah.
Right, like I pulled all the missing middle parcels in the town and it averaged out at like 8 dwelling units an acre. And that's taking into account some of those PA 490 huge properties that technically have 2 houses on them, right? A single family and an ADU, right? So
Yeah.
that's pretty within that framework, right?
What, the 3 to 15 or the 2 to 7?
The 3 to 15,
Hmm.
like that range.
I don't understand.
So
what you're
there's
saying.
overlap, is that what you're saying, Bryce? I don't get.
So Bryce,
yeah.
oh, good.
Oh,
No. Like I say, so Bryce did a calculation of all the parcels that have missing middle housing on the
Uh-huh.
account today, and the average ended up being 8 units per acre, so that 3 to 15. Sort of, that.
More,
that
yeah,
is,
seems like that more accurately defines what it is as to what it was,
yeah,
how we defined it previously.
But you included the PA 490?
When I did that calculation, it also had to include some of those large PA 490
Yeah.
properties because they technically were one property, but they
Mhm.
had 2 houses, a single family ADU or 2 single family houses or something, that increased that density calculation or decreased that
Yeah.
density calculation,
Yeah.
skewed the numbers a little bit.
But shouldn't we take that out? Because that's,
Oh, I will,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but I just, quick.
if you took it out, then that 8
I
is
just
gonna be
wanted,
higher.
oh, yeah, maybe
So is that an average or median?
that was an average, I
That-
wanted to do the average first.
Yeah.
And have something for this.
That's a good template, right? I agree.
all right. I
So
think that's all.
Lauren has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Lauren, yes.
Yeah, so I guess apologies, I'm gonna play the new person card. So when we're talking about densities, we're talking about it per parcel and not necessarily in a given area, or is it in a given area?
That's a good question. I think of it as parcel.
Yeah,
And,
me too.
yeah,
Because so I'm thinking, right, like I'm thinking about say Noank, right? Which we don't have shown here, but or even certain areas, the houses, those are small lots really close together with one unit on it, but in that area they're pretty close, they're very walkable. It's I think more of that environment that maybe a lot of people would like to see when we think density as opposed to just 300 blocks of units. And I think that that's a different consideration than per parcel, because I'm sitting here struggling with the jump between like the very easy graduation between rural, low, medium, high. And then once we get to high, it's 15, but there's no max cap. And so I'm thinking about that. And there's a big difference between putting 15 units per acre and 300. But that's essentially what we're going to be saying by identifying certain parcels as high, is that sky's the limit, more or less, right? Obviously there's limits. But that's, it feels a little too unbounded for my comfort, and I'd just like to see an upper bound on the high, or maybe another level. I don't know, but that's what I'm thinking of, because we don't experience neighborhoods in terms of taxable parcels. We experience them in entire groups and clusters. So that's where I'm struggling, kind of trying to visualize the density volumes that we're talking about.
so staff conferring, you have.
No, not at all. I mean, no, we were just talking about whether or not there was a cap on high density, and under the old zoning regulations, when there were a number of different multi-unit categories, there was a cap. It was tied to the acreage. In this case, the cap is going to be met by how you provide everything else that you have to provide for a multi-unit development. It's going to be, constrained by the parking you have to, the landscaping, the recreation area, rather than, just putting a cap on the number of units.
And you still have the residential density calculation.
Where you can, right, where you
Right.
take out wetlands, steep
Right.
slopes, floodplain.
Right.
So yes, there's no hard and fast cap, and honestly, I will say, a reminder, this is not zoning, but it.
Right,
land use map.
thank
So
you.
back to that same.
Yes.
Argument we've been having. Within zoning, I tend to, discourage communities from putting an artificial cap on density, because it is all those other things combined that should be, setting that cap. So yes, there's a cap. The sky is never the limit. And you have a lot of mechanisms in zoning that put an actual cap on residential density, depending on the conditions of the lot.
And also keeping in mind that height is
Yeah.
also one of the biggest
That's what I was
constraining
wondering.
factors
Yeah.
when we're looking at density. And when we're thinking about density, we also have to remember that a unit, not all units are created equal. 700 square foot studio, single family small home is the same from a unit perspective as a 3,000 square foot single family home. It's just that lot coverage, height, the massing. And that's again where we get into the devil's in the details when we get to the zoning. And that's where you all get to make the hard decisions of, all right, what is that maximum number? How can we control it through height, through massing, through lot coverage, and all these other things?
Well, I think maybe go over this again. I mean, I'll study it, maybe not over the next week, but after that. And want to become a lot more familiar with the implications of it, because it's a little bit different than what we've been doing before. And it has more upside for units and everything too, of course. But then you have the height thing to throw in.
Again,
So-
this isn't zoning,
Yeah.
Right.
so it's not, it's just, it's aspirational, it's what you think might fit in this particular area. You will study it when you get there to change, if indeed you want to change zoning regulations. And to see whether or not it's appropriate, what the design is and how dense you really do want it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
Yeah.
that, but for me, it's still zoning.
I know,
You know,
but-
maybe that's,
Correlation is there. I mean, you have, that's what we do, right?
yeah. That's right.
But aspirationally, do we have a problem with that 15 or more?
As an option.
As an option, do we have a problem with just that if all other things are met?
Right.
And I personally don't, because there's so many other things.
Right.
Like I compare it, I have to say it, working in Oregon, the size of the shopping center sometimes came down to how many trees you needed to put on the lot. How did that happen? Well, because you needed so many cars, because of how many spaces you have. And it was this enormous thing. You just couldn't get a very large building. So we don't really have to worry about what you're permitted to do. You just couldn't do it because we already have the zoning in place that forbids it other ways.
Right. But yeah, with the
So-
parking, these other things, I think it's good to have another look at this, just to make sure we're really all on board and on the same page, instead of we have zoning pages and other pages here, so.
And could I just ask, I'm not sure if this is because of how the materials were printed. It looks like this map was printed out and then scanned in. I'm having some difficulties in certain areas tracking. Oh, maybe this is just a me problem then. I'm going to rescind this comment. But do we have a list of what has been changed from the previous future land use map and what is changed in front of us here? Because I'm trying to like flip back and forth between the maps that were provided. And aside from like, I see like we changed the unit numbers, but was there anything else?
So the major thing is the density categories are for the four residential categories.
Right.
Look at the last memo that we sent for November. It breaks down. We're trying as hard as possible to follow the boundaries of your existing zoning districts this time around. Since you've gone through a lot of efforts to form those boundaries, we want those to be the basis of this. The major things that have changed: one, adding green districts additional conservation lands that have been designated since 2016. So that's been added, and you'll see that as a change. We're using the same methodology for the government institutional uses. Some of those, again, might be designated for areas of analysis. Some of them may have changed to green, but by and large, we are trying to base this future land use map on your existing zoning boundaries.
And to add to that, we've also removed the nodes that were shown on the 16 map, and we've removed the special focus areas because the zoning has been changed to address the recommendations in the 16 plan.
Okay.
Yep.
And so if we do want to discuss changes, and this might be more a question for Sue, when and how do we want to discuss that? Because I know you want to take another look at it.
Well, I think for sure we're gonna need another meeting on the future land use map. I mean, there's a lot. I don't know, I think there's a lot of opportunities and to really put maybe other layers on there. I mean, just having the climate change one on there, I think was extremely useful. And then well, I won't get into my point on that one. But it's like, it's really good, some of the detail on this one and the change from the format of the other one. That I think, the more you look at it and we go through these sessions and think about it, I think it'd be good to get together again and see if everybody's on the same, maybe be a lot of new ideas, who knows? You know, if not, we can always cancel a meeting. Everybody's
like,
going to go home.
there's like a section that I would want a discussion about changing from auto-oriented mixed use to walkable mixed use. So I just want to follow your lead here and when you want to have those discussions.
Yeah, right. No, I've got similar thoughts myself. I'm gonna, you know, should we really put where the villages are as much as we think they're villages now, you know, get an idea. What do we have now? And, you know, to your point, Lauren, actually, one thing I thought about when I was thinking about this thing, I was like, you know, I don't even know where the playgrounds are in Groton, you know? And we keep talking about playgrounds, you know, how certain places are kind of squashed together and the kids don't have any place to go and, you know, or the adults in some cases, or just a place to go and sit or something, whatever the community decides they want. But, and that without making this a total mess, this map. But things like that, I think it's good to think about what do we need in order to help us make good decisions.
Would it be helpful?
Like a little flag or something, like a dot,
Yeah, something easy, but
yeah.
Probably not on the future land
Exactly.
use map unless you are proposing to
Yeah.
make changes. Certainly as a map within the document, if that's what you need.
right,
Or
like they
even
kind
That
of,
would be a good map, yeah.
Right.
Right.
Needed a map with some of those things to review to make decisions, but they weren't necessarily gonna be on the
Exactly.
future land use
Right.
map. Okay.
yeah, that's what I was just saying, things
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
And remember how they, it was like transparencies too, I think, us.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, it might be helpful for you all to look at the baseline
Okay.
report,
Hmm.
because a lot of that information is in there in map form.
Yep.
And
Okay.
the other thing to remember is, and we keep reiterating this in the baseline, is that the baseline was a snapshot in time. And as you are in real time making decisions about where we should be, promoting more parks, that's when you rely on staff to run the numbers, the mapping as it is at the time you want to make that decision. So that they're providing that as a tool for you. Whereas again, the future land use map is designed to have longer legs. It's really not, so like, I agree, like you don't want to be mapping playgrounds on your future land use map. Like when if you want to make a decision about that, then staff should be supporting you with the information you need at the time to make that decision.
Yeah, no, it'll be easier once we get this thing more settled down.
Yeah.
To put a layer on it. It'll be very useful.
Well, sure, and then again, you could use this as the base, and then staff can
Right.
lay something over it as a tool for you
Yep.
for a specific decision.
One of the things we want to really focus on is not making this map too busy.
Right.
Because if we put too many layers on it, it's not going to make any sense at
Well,
all.
that's
So
what the old one.
yeah, the old
Yeah.
one was too
Yeah,
much.
there was a lot of stuff on there and
Crazy.
you couldn't even make it out.
Nothing to
And
do with that.
So
Okay.
I really, to Deb's point, please look at the baseline report. There's a lot of great information. I'll bet you a lot of the maps, the information you're looking for is there. And, or if you want to get into nitty gritty about parks or other things, there's the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. They have, I know, a lot of great map and information there. Because if we start putting too many, the map's not going to make sense anymore. And we do hope to get into the nitty gritty tonight to get some other suggestions from you of what you want changes on that future land use map. So, Lauren's question about auto-oriented versus walkable, we want to get into that. And I know once Jeff gets through this, we wanted to get into the specific parcels on the future land use map.
Okay. All right, Jeff.
I'll go through the rest of the future land use map slides quickly, and then yes, that was the intention, is that that's why I have the map in front of you. If you want to draw on it, you say, I am concerned about the categorization here, and I would like it to be considered for something else. That's part of what we want to talk about tonight, as well as the specific areas for future study. So next slide, please. So again, this is just as a reminder. When I to update the slides, the walkable mixed use versus the auto-oriented mixed use. So we were initially thinking the CN would be strictly within the walkable mixed use. As we talked to town staff more, we realized there are some, particularly those smaller pockets of CN along Gold Star Highway that may realistically, are they going to be walkable anytime soon? Probably not. So having playing with changing the categorization for some of those. And then industrial waterfront remains the IG and WW. Next slide, please.
Like the sub base has that, I guess, walkable color on it.
Right, and so there was some debate about.
Which is a little
that really
crazy.
walkable? Do you
Yeah.
want it to be walkable in the future? Again, that's part of what this is about. It doesn't necessarily have to reflect what's there today. This is showing your intention for the future. So we've discussed government institutional and utility categories. We've discussed green already, so we can move on to the next slide.
I guess going back to that slide, some of the governmental uses, the active schools. I guess that's what I was struggling with a school like Mary Morrison, which is semi-active, I guess. They use some things, the place is heated, is the whole thing utilized?
They are,
know.
and they're looking at putting preschool in there now, so yeah.
Oh, they are? So they
Definitely.
might actually
school
need the-
use, yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
I think, things like that'd be good to know, or else the one down across from the library, to the east of the library, I think on some of these was showing as almost a potential, parcel and stuff like that, but I didn't know if we were set on where Park and Rex was going with fields and all that too,
I
or
think-
the future land use.
that one that you're talking about near the library, I think you can see it's small, but as future study.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is some, so if you've got a school that has a playground attached to it, that may be categorized as institutional, but just because something's categorized institutional doesn't mean there can't be a playground there. If it is a municipal parcel, it can still be, used for open space and recreation.
No, absolutely. That was really my point in this
Yeah.
too, because otherwise, I'm just not familiar with all these places. But if they were on a layer on top, with the transparencies or something, labeled as playgrounds, I think we get a really good idea. Yeah, and include the schools definitely, because most kids, a lot of families go and hang out, whatever, especially when the kids are little. So. Okay.
So again, one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight were specific areas on the map that you would want to change and say, yeah, I think this should be this rather than what we have it marked as today. Or whether there should be things that are called out for future analysis. And I think, in this draft, those areas of future analysis are marked with polka dots. We can play with that iconography, but that's what you have before you. So based on our conversation tonight, we may add additional areas in polka dots to fill areas of further analysis.
Well, when do you want to have that discussion then?
Now, yeah.
Because then maybe we should go and physically look at the map a little closer, because it is kind of far away and small.
Yeah, that's why we're in this room, so we can
Say
gather
that.
around. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you got. Then we could all have a big one to look in and then. I think there's some open space that's not on here,
Yes.
as you
yep,
know.
We,
I'm sure.
yep, we've got that.
I'm sure you got that. Yes. Yeah, pulling that 1 by 4 off. It's the state of Connecticut up there. Gosa's got the new property.
Right, yep, that'll be
Um,
updated.
Yeah, so we'll update the open space layer. So
Okay.
I don't focus on that right now.
Right, as well as the Navy.
Yep, as well as the
We're keeping
Navy,
that on the
we're on top of that.
Yep.
Just,
Great.
we've been
Okay.
going through iterations and just trying to get you the latest and greatest. We'll have that soon. But I think maybe more focus on whether it's the pieces with the bubbles, if there's areas, I think Lauren had brought up and raised her hand again before she brought up some areas that are auto versus walkable.
Yep.
Let's talk about those areas.
Well, Lauren, do you want to say anything about the walkable versus non?
Sure. Yeah, I've got a number of parcels that I kind of want to talk about, but we'll start there. So my thought is, in this nexus of 95 and Route 12, kind of at the north of the city and south of District 4, I guess I'm wondering why, if this is aspirational, especially down as it goes down the Route 12 corridor, given the amount of planned, though not concrete, housing units coming online, wouldn't we, as an aspiration, want to make this more of a walkable mixed use area, which I know it's very aspirational, but I would think that that's something I would want to push somewhere along here. I'm thinking of some of those areas like around the Stop and Shop Plaza going down towards the Chipotle. We have some of those kind of like strip commercial areas. Why wouldn't we want to promote that as more walkable, mixed use in the future, right? As a future aspiration. There's nothing we can do about what's there currently, but I think I saw somewhere in this package that this area is being potentially identified as like a new design area. And that's something that I would want to think of. I would want to bring people more to the street here than make it auto oriented, especially considering the density that's being planned and being pushed for this particular area of town. I know how it is now is more auto oriented, but aspirationally, I'd like to get people out of their cars a little bit more and focus more on kind of the walkable commercial aspects that we can.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and maybe we don't want auto oriented as a category. Maybe we want everything to be walkable, to some extent.
Well, right, and if you recall, my first iteration of this, it was, I can't remember what I called it, but it was not walkable versus auto-centric, and that was sort of the terminology we discussed last month, but we can call it whatever you want. Because you're right, you should be aiming for walkability wherever you have commercial uses, ideally.
Okay.
It's just going to be at different levels. There's different scales.
Yeah, what's walkable? I mean, especially along that Route 12 corridor there, you've got a road that's almost impossible to cross.
Right.
So you'd have to that would be it could be done, but and it would be desirable, I think.
Yeah. And again, I'm thinking about the planned density, right? And if it's being said that this area is always historically been planned for density and we're having all this density and we've got lots and lots of units in the pipeline, though no hammer swinging, I would think that aspirationally future use, we want to prioritize more walkability in this area as opposed to, I know we have some areas down here, it looks like kind of in the Pequannock Bridge area, on the more southerly part. But I feel like we could bring walkability up. I don't know, it's gonna be a little bit hard going through that 184 area. Hard but not impossible. But and it's hard for me to see on this map how I have it, but even the connection between Tollgate going over to Gold Star, because of the units planned there and just what we already have built there, Tollgate needs to have sidewalks, bike line. Like you have to be able to connect that side of 95 to the other side. You're just going to get a lot of people who are going to be hit in a lot of accidents. If not, it's amazing that hasn't happened yet, to be frank. I think a lot of people are probably cutting through the Stop and Shop and Walmart parking lots.
So the other approach to this is we can use the original terminology, which was, I believe, village/town center mixed use versus other mixed use. And we don't, based on walkability, because I agree, you don't want to imply that then you're not promoting walkability or pedestrian safety in these areas.
Right. And if you read middle housing, there seems to be a direct link to that, right? I think.
Oh, yes.
The walkability, yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey, Lauren, Bryce has sent you the high res flume, so I don't know if you can open that, but that might be more helpful as you're looking at this.
Yeah, I'm at an airport USO right now, so
No worries, never mind.
without
Ignore
switching
that.
on my phone or whatever. And I'm
Thank you,
at
Bryce.
a computer terminal, but I can't get my email. But thank you, Bryce. I will totally look at that. Thank you so much.
So can you define walkability? Does walkability mean sidewalks? Does it mean streets that are walkable? Just what does walkability mean? Because I guess I'm less convinced that, walking through the parking lot at Stop and Shop and going down Route 12 is particularly safe. And as Michael pointed out, getting across Route 12 is virtually impossible. And so I wouldn't be excited about wanting to do it. So what does walkability mean?
But should we aspire to that?
Well, I
You
guess
know,
the question is, what does walkability mean? I
Right,
mean,
it's
sidewalks or
safe
what
for
is it?
Yeah.
pedestrians, safe for pedestrians, safe for bicyclists, safe for cars.
And-
To take
And in my,
to go somewhere.
But there's two different levels of that. There's the walkability of, can you walk there? Half a mile away, the sidewalk up Route 12, can I walk from Stop and Shop to Subbase? I can.
Yeah.
Is that
yes,
walkable? Well, technically it's walkable. Well, when we think of walkability, we think of not giving it a second thought of stopping at Panera and going someplace else and going someplace else and going someplace else. That's a
Right.
different story. So
So
actually,
I really would recommend, based on this conversation, that we just remove walkability from the descriptor. Obviously, you want to promote walkability to the greatest extent you can
Right.
everywhere in town. And we just go back to the prior terminology to avoid confusion.
And then when we're changing zoning in the future, as we're addressing this, because again, what is walkability? There's certain standards we can put in for both developers, but also standards to hold the town accountable or the state when they're redoing roads and connections and crossing some of those roads that seem impossible to cross now. You know, I know Deb's been on helping the COG and some other committees looking at things like Vision Zero, which we talked about a little bit in the text of the of the POCD, which I think we took the specific language of that out, but I think everybody would aspire that no one is getting hurt or killed while walking or biking around town. So, I mean, when you think about walkability, those are the things I think about.
Well, there's a bike path going down from the sub base, right?
Mhm.
On the west side. Yeah. Right. So I didn't know, some countries, whatever, you put the pedestrian a safe distance from the bike path.
Yeah.
But we never seem to have enough room, but if we do, if we could plan that way, that's the best.
It goes back to complete streets,
Yeah.
plan policy, yeah.
So Jeff, what you said, I agree with. I think we've entered into a term that we're.
Isn't working.
Isn't working.
Yep.
That's enough.
I agree too.
But just one thing while we're on this subject, because and I may not have the number right exactly, but to me, there's at least 3 very major landowners in the Route 1 corridor, where the TJ Maxx is, Big Y, and then of course Benny's was and stuff like that. And it's kind of like here we are really planning for that area. And yet, is there any way we can work with those landowners or may not, some may be making major changes now. I mean, they're taking buildings down. And I guess we don't have a plan really of what they're going to do. They're not really probably required to do a lot of this stuff yet. I don't know, but be nice to know what they're thinking because that's a lot of sidewalk there.
We can't force people to redevelop their land. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, just sorry, got to be straight up with you. We talked to the owners of these properties. I had a conversation this week or last week with the owner of one of those key properties you mentioned. Another one has come to us recently, demolishing the theater building.
Right.
We know that there are options. I mean, that's within a TIF district, an enterprise zone, very flexible zoning standards within the town. That's the area that we've identified working with the town and the Connecticut Redevelopment Authority as doing something with more infrastructure grants. Again, we're not in that program yet, but it's something we're looking at. So we're doing everything that we can to set the table, but until they want to bring the stake and redevelop their property, we're kind of in a holding pattern of where we are.
And but they have an idea of what we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Or-
Oh,
Absolutely.
100%. Every time we talk to them, hey, this is a TIF district. Look at this great zoning we developed. Are there problems with that zoning that are preventing you from developing? They're
Yeah.
just,
No,
it also takes a lot of capital. I
yeah.
mean, when we look at some of these redevelopment projects, some of these sites to redevelop it, that could be $500 million or billions of dollars to do. And that, the checkbook for that, how people want to do it, if they want to retain ownership or bring partners in, that's really up to them.
Well, I know it's been a long, frustrating time with a lot of these. For
Yeah.
sure. Which brings me, I guess, the last thing, and then I'll stop talking for a while, I promise. but where the new train station might be. Cause that's not on the map here. And yet it'd be helpful, and I know we're not gonna say, this is a plot right here where it's gonna be. But it'd be helpful to have something we could give our friends like in Rhode Island. So they don't just go from Mystic to New London, where do you think we might, or it could even be some big circle, fuzzy color or something like that.
Like had transportation hub. or
Yeah,
something.
transportation, exactly, something
Yeah.
generic.
So, I mean, this area, is on the radar of people at Connecticut DOT. We have had conversations with people at Rhode Island DOT before. Once we get into that more in-depth conversation with the folks at the Connecticut Redevelopment Authority, I think we'll have a little bit more definitiveness on this. And I've even asked more recently, what is the state doing? What's happening with that train study? I mean, could we do something in this area indicating that it is? But
I don't see a problem with just, putting a bubble
yeah,
Yeah.
in just generally in that
Potential.
area
yeah.
and maybe not calling out trains, but
Yeah.
transportation.
Sure.
It could,
Or TOD
just-
district or
right,
something like that.
Yeah.
TOD, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I like those districts, right? Because essentially what you said, John, you want to set in very key areas of town, the ability to do whatever a good developer wants to do. That has the parameters of what we set. And I think in that train area, it should be a district, right?
Are you thinking about it from the perspective of like a bubble or delineated
Bubble.
along parcels?
For
Oh,
now, a
just-
bubble,
a bubble.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want
Yeah,
people to
yeah.
start buying and selling
Yeah,
real
yeah,
estate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, so that's my thought.
Right. Good, okay.
So is that something that we want to talk about, where that bubble's gonna go?
Sure.
You have a
I
good
know
sense
the
of where
assumption is,
Train station would be, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
in the area of Quantic Road and Route 1.
Uh-huh.
somewhere
Yeah, I
there.
also like, I mean, I would say, make sure we look at the airport. Because the
Mhm.
trains go through that area and maybe that's like something down, and then you are making a place where planes could potentially work with,
That might be more of a spur as
Yeah.
opposed to, I think, what everybody else is talking about is where's the Amtrak line going along the Amtrak line?
Going to go.
Yeah, or the Northeast Corridor line, and where could that potential stop be? And I think that's a bubble around that kind of MTC, MVC, or high density mixed
Yeah,
use
okay.
district there.
I mean,
We discussed that.
Right.
Your zoning already
Allows all
accommodates
that,
what you would
right.
want.
Yeah.
So this is not so much an area of change, but just to note that, hey, this is something we want to happen.
Right, we shrink wrap it.
But I will say that, big transportation areas are not necessarily allowed in those zones. So I think calling it out makes some
Sure.
sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we get
Can I-
have something to share with our friends
Right.
to the east. So.
Now, here's a wild idea, but I've always envisioned, I know it's a little bit close to the New London side, but down at the southern part of District 4, where it touches District 3, where Amtrak, when the train comes right over, you have the rail bridge right there under 95.
Yeah.
That
Mm.
whole area, I've always thought would be a perfect location built into the hillside there. And would be, maybe it's a spur or whatever you want to call it, but especially for connectivity between EB and the naval base.
Are you looking at south of 95 in the city or?
I think it's just technically in the city, but if you actually drive up under there, the road is called Fairview. And
Yeah,
you can,
Yeah.
you,
city.
where the, yeah.
Submarine Memorial is
Yeah.
that area.
Yep.
Diamond
But right
lumber.
over there, Bridge Street, Fairview, where that connects that
We
area
already have
right
a
there.
spur.
City.
It's a
It's
city.
a city.
And it's
It's
right where
technically
the
the city,
train,
yeah.
train stop used to be.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So it's all
Yeah.
set up.
Yep, talk to the city. Maybe they'll be revising theirs soon.
Well, we can put a bubble on our map with the intention to speak with the city. Right.
Well,
It's a great idea.
that's a
Why
problem
not?
that we have.
And we should probably set up a meeting with the city planning to talk about our maps in the future once we're a bit more concrete with where we want to go.
It gets referred to them as it does to all adjacent municipalities.
Okay, but like a meeting to actually talk to each other about it.
Right.
But sure.
Is that where we want it really?
Well,
Right, I
no,
know, exactly.
there's nowhere, well, we have two stations, right?
Yeah, I don't
Right,
know.
well,
Because putting it into our dentist commercial core is generally the best place to
Yeah,
put
yeah,
a train
that's right.
station.
And for housing and stuff like that, I think we need to
Yeah.
think, where can we really perhaps put some
So-
dense
Yeah.
housing?
Is that something that we're happy to commit to talking with the city about in the future? Certainly, do I think it belongs in the PUCD? We try not to get into other jurisdictions, land use decisions along those lines. Happy to talk with the folks in the city. The city planner is actually going to be retiring soon, so I don't think having a conversation with her right now is going to be super beneficial. So I think once a new planner's on board, that's something we could certainly do.
Right, thanks.
We go to the next slide. I want to continue taking people's ideas, but just as also as a reminder that we had the list of potential changes that we started discussing last month, and also want your feedback on today. So we can either go through these, or we can continue on with the ideas that you brought to the table today based on your initial review of the map.
yeah, I had a question, actually about the Hazelnut Hill Road situation. Am I wrong looking at this, seeing that it's in here as auto-oriented mixed use as opposed to IM?
The IM is right now under this version. I mean, again, we just talked about renaming it, but the IM was under that other mixed use category, or the auto-centric mixed use.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not calling it industrial here for some, like, okay.
Right. So we decided
maybe
not
that's
to
what's
call it
throwing me off.
industrial because multifamily housing is now
Yeah.
allowed in the IM. It wasn't. It's now a mixed use district, really, instead of an industrial district, where the IG, where you don't allow residential.
Okay. I think the
So it's-
terminology is just what's throwing me off.
Yeah. So yeah,
Right.
the IM is now. I'm just considering it a mixed use district because of what you allow there.
Right, and that's a zoning designation, so it's,
Right.
yeah, exactly, as opposed to what we've got on the land use map.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we take the first bullet,
Yeah. Let's take the first bullet.
so should the MDD be expanded, right?
Yeah.
So we have this push of climate change, and my belief is that if we are to arrive at the analytics that we're behind middle housing, right, and we're creating neighborhoods, the ability to embrace districts, even in a bubble, to possibly be expanded is, to me, desirable, right? So same as we just talked about at the train station, the MDD, why wouldn't we try to expand that, right? Because we're getting forced from the river on climate change. And while we don't want very large industrial, certainly part of what is now clearly a residential, we also don't, in my opinion, embrace middle housing without doing some of these expansions. That's my only point on MDD. And I know it could be very contentious, but the fact is, if we're aspirational, I believe MTC and MDD warrant a look for us to expand them. So.
And just so talk about a little
Yeah.
more. So when you think about expanding that, is that a missing housing impetus for you primarily? Is it like the businesses in downtown Mystic could get displaced, and we want to have areas where businesses are allowed as well? What is the primary?
But for me, it's both.
Okay.
But how's that, in climate change, it has all lines on it. If we're just going north to the R7. You know,
Yep.
if that's where we're expanding, we're really not solving that problem.
No, that's true.
Yeah, you gotta get above that cliff.
Yeah.
That's why I think this map with those lines on it is really useful, quite honestly. It really highlights a lot of these problems.
Yeah, so really it wouldn't benefit you at all expanding into that area north.
From a climate change perspective, not
At
necessarily.
north, yeah.
You have to go further,
Yeah, you
further
go
you have to
west.
west.
Find
yes.
another spot.
Up the hill,
Yep.
up the hill.
Yep,
Yeah, that's right.
so, okay, so let's have that discussion.
Yeah.
I
Well,
You
mean,
know,
yeah, well, one discussion I think we ought to have, not tonight, that's for sure. But with all this so nicely highlighted in the blue, if you could take, what's the tax revenue to the town, property taxes from this whole blue band around here. I think it'd be good if people knew that. I think it's gonna be,
Or you mean the climate overlay?
yeah,
I mean, as
that's
opposed to
right. I think it's
institutional.
gonna be
Okay.
pretty astonishing, you know? It's got all of Groton Long Point practically. It's got a lot of, it's got the wealthiest areas, you know. Worth the most, property taxes are 30 grand or more, things like that. And it's kind of like, and well, at Groton Long Point, there's, you know, there's not places to go, Mumford Cove limited. But and I'm just saying these two because I'm pretty familiar with those. But it's the same up the coast. The river has issues, I guess, too. And the same sort of thing. And we're not gonna obviously solve it tonight. But I think it's a chance to maybe for once say, what is this gonna cost? Maybe I'll get more attention because it seemed to be difficult to even get much energy around the downtown Mystic study that was done that.
So there are some things we can do. I think I gotta say this. I want to make sure we're not going down some rabbit holes.
Right.
Because again, aspirational, if we're thinking about these things, okay, well then that's where we put a bubble. We highlight an area. When we actually want to say, all right, you know what? Staff, we adopt the plan, it has that change, it shows the bubble going west. 2 years from now, staff, can you run the analytics on this? That's when we're going to start, you know, through public comments. We've gotten a lot. We need to do this study. We can't do all those studies. I don't have a unlimited time budget to do all of these things. And I just worry that, oh, well, we need to analyze this more. We need to analyze that more. Could we do a snapshot on a small area to show taxes? Yeah, we probably could do something like that. But if you already have a really good indication of, all right, that area is paying substantial property taxes, and that's going to help us sell that zone change in the future, well, we're going to run that in the future as part of it. If that makes sense, because I mean, there are things that, you know, Deb and I were talking about, if there was ever an opportunity, like if people were concerned about, well, we don't want the total land area of the downtown Mystic area to grow from a business perspective. Well, that's something we might want to look at, transfer development rights and properties that are on the water. As they're in flood zones, they get turned into open space or floodplain areas in the future as things up the hill start becoming mixed use commercial. Again, we're not running analyses on those now. That's a future study. That's a lot of money in the future. I don't know.
It's way too complicated to try to come up with a number
On the
that you're
fly.
displacing
Yes.
other areas and.
We can't do that right now. That's a big project in the future. And that's something that we may address 5 years from now.
But in terms of the map, do you want to expand the pink area that's shown on here as, you know, basically a downtown? Do you want to expand that to the west?
I think we really have to see what's involved and what it would mean, because what's the option? Going out to sea, it's not. You
So I mean, the big question is, over the next 10 years, do you
Gotta look
expect
at
to
it.
do a serious look at that?
I think so.
I think should, what you,
So
what,
nobody else
I don't know what the definition or what the word is planners use, but creep, like you see, I call it creep. When you're and you see the commercial area, first they occupy houses and it does it naturally if you're but when you make a hard line there and they can't cross that line. So it might be something that we might do something like that incrementally, just like it would happen naturally. Sort of.
So again, we come back to the question, like, how do you want us to, right now you have the best available data in your hands of what we have, with what you know, your knowledge of the town. How do you want us to make changes or not make changes to this map today?
Right, because right now, the pink area, which is a mixed use, right? That encompasses, you know, the commercial area of downtown Mystic. Does it go into the R7 as well?
No.
Okay, it does not. So it does not go into any residentially zoned area. Do you want to show that mixed use expanding from what is now currently downtown Mystic? Doesn't mean the zone changes. But if you study it in the future and decide you want to make some changes, it is then consistent with this plan. So
And if you,
it's-
and if you study in the future and decide you don't
Don't.
want to do it,
Yeah,
you
that's
don't
right.
have to
Well,
adopt
Dan-
those changes. And then, all right, it's there, but we're not ready yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, and again, we have a lot more available data to us with the studies, the analyses we've done over the past few years
Mhm.
and things that were still going on than most other municipalities when
Right.
they're addressing a POCD. And it becomes one of those things of, I'm often thinking about, we want to avoid paralysis by analysis because we can analyze things to death. And at some point you have to say, all right, what's the best decision we can make based on the available data in front of us? So knowing what you know about climate change, about sea level rise, the impacts to downtown Mystic, or if there's other areas that are high density or medium density housing, abutting stuff that might be lower. Do you want to change some of that on this map, which doesn't require that you do it, but just that we're going to study it in the future?
Right, well, what do the commissioners think?
I'm good. I'm good with,
Go ahead, because I kind of spoke. I
With
think everyone-
stretch. with stretching the rest of it. Definitely looking into it. As
Okay.
if we didn't have the zoning that demanded otherwise,
Mhm.
it would have been creeping up that way. And we
True.
would have thought it was normal.
I mean, I'm thinking of the Spicer Mansion,
Yeah,
right, which
yeah,
is,
yeah.
Yeah.
that's exactly
Yeah.
why it
Mm.
couldn't be developed, is
Yeah, sure.
because it was over that line, right? And yet, seems like it kind of, though hard and fast, it does not fit, but seems like that's what would happen. So I'm probably okay with.
Yeah, we already have, so actually, it was advanced, whoever the contractor is that
Yeah,
redid the
yeah,
house.
yeah.
And then it was going to be a house and now it became their offices.
Yeah.
And
Right.
made perfect sense.
Mm.
And I can march up the hill gradually and slowly and
And
be a long time before it gets to Kevin's house. We're good.
Okay,
come
so,
to my house. I don't care.
so High
Yeah,
Street,
I see.
Allen Street,
yeah.
what are we talking?
How
here?
far?
How far out? Like,
Yeah.
talking about the R7 for now, do you want to extend it further than that?
I can't tell the detail of my R7.
Well, I got real man.
Right, but so here's the other part of this, okay, so if we expand, which I'm in favor of the MDD. And I believe it should go into the R7. There's a second part to this, right? And the second part is that we also have to have aspirational thoughts within the zones that we're creeping into, or if we designate that we need more conservation at the same time. So maybe it's the waterfront, maybe it's some other facilities that we have in that area, but it's a big plan, that I think for that area, we have to embrace the conservation side of that as well. So we got the creep, or we have the designation, but we have conservation too. That's my belief. So.
Would it make sense?
Yeah.
There's some natural vertical issues as you go west.
Yeah.
Some are slight and gradual
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
some are sudden.
Yeah.
And so my thought, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's a way down the road before you have to go up the cliff. But to go up the hill, sure. Once again, I think of, if we didn't have the zoning that precluded it, where would it have gone? And it would have gone where people could have walked and wheeled.
But would have been the impediment.
Right. If it was, let's look at where that would have been. They wouldn't have gone up the cliff. Which probably might have kept the Spicer Mansion out of it anyway. Well, no, not really.
No,
The bigger cliff is right.
Something like High Street is what.
Yeah.
Yeah,
at the
that's correct.
church,
That's
you know,
right.
stopping at the church.
Right.
Um,
And that made perfect sense.
And I think to Kevin's point, we make these changes on the map. Once we, a few years from now, start talking about this zoning, that's the level of direction and specificity we want from you before if we're going, hiring for outside help on this or doing it ourselves, whatever it is, we want to hear from you. What are the trade-offs you're looking for before we start doing work so we can understand how to frame it? If your direction is today, the MDD is X amount of acres, and we don't want that zone to grow more than 2 acres total because we understand property lines and things, but we want there to be open space preservation in the current flood zones or high velocity zones, and that's how it's going to happen. All right, well, then we're going to have to come up with a program that goes that way. So, but again, it'll be complicated, it'll be a heavy lift for us to do, but when we do the zoning, the implementation, that's when we get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, no, I think this is extremely useful and I want to take the time to look a lot closer at possibilities too.
Yeah.
Especially around the coastline. I don't know, did you have any other comments, Jim? Lauren? You know, the reason this all came up, to me was there was a strategy here.
Which page is that?
The first page of the strategy.
Yeah,
It's 1.1.b, discourage new housing development in flood zones. And encourage adding flood protection improvements to structures currently in flood prone areas. But particularly the first one, it was kind of like, what can we really do here? I know we raised the required
The free board.
baseline, and we could do another foot there. I guess that's still within the 2 feet. But what else could we do? That's not a question for tonight, but it's just, that's what kind of spurred my
Yeah, that's what I had
looking at.
yeah.
got to understand.
My question really is, what is our role versus the new state requirements now that within 1,000 feet of the water, you're gonna have to have some type of review. So what standards and criteria are they putting in place that are going to be consistent or inconsistent with what we're doing?
So
Are they effectively creating a climate overlay by that?
no,
Yeah,
but
I don't think so. It
yeah.
is, that is literally just a review as to whether or not your proposal is going to adversely impact coastal resources. There aren't any standards there. It's just a.
so that's like building permit stuff, that's zoning, that's
Yep.
that's a lot more nitty gritty than we need to get into tonight. It's things we want to have in the back of our minds. Again, big picture is really what we're trying to get here. And it's hard because I know you're all thinking about a site plan you're going to see, an application, the zoning, and it's okay, take 3, 5, 10 steps back. What's our goal here over the next 10 years? What would we like to see, and not figuring out all the nitty-gritty details today?
Right, but I guess I was just wondering, there's really not much we can do if somebody wants to build in one of those areas, right?
Well,
People require this, that, and the other thing, but you can't basically say, no, I'm sorry, this is off the table.
We will talk about it.
Yeah,
It's the zoning.
Yeah, and that's where we get to that in the zoning, you know. I mean, we've had people come to us to want to change zoning on properties from industrial to residential that's in the flood zone. No,
Yeah.
not allowing it.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've drawn hard lines, but then we have other mixed use zones that allow housing that are in the flood zone. And as long as they meet the building standards, we have two options. We can either change the zoning, which at some point could potentially be a regulatory taking, or we could buy the property from them. So I mean, it's,
Could limit the uses. in
Yes.
that zone and limit and say residential is not allowed.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, there's options
yep,
when we get there.
when we get there.
But that's the zoning regs, which we'll get to.
That's our next meeting.
Yeah.
But what happens with residential properties that are in the flood zone already? And if they want to renovate,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, all the stuff we will take into
you overlay new
consideration.
requirements on them.
Right.
Yep.
Weren't on the existing property.
Right.
Well, that was
But-
Mouse Island.
Yeah. But that's all
Right.
zoning.
Just say, well, that's your, you
Yeah.
know, you choose to go there, you're taking a chance.
But they're allowed to do things now.
Yeah. So let me try to pull you all out of the weeds. We're way in the weeds, right? We're down in the eel grass right now. So let's get out of the Phragmites and a little bit bigger picture.
Thanks for noticing. the-
So I'm okay with that area moving.
With generally.
Yeah, I mean, it's either that or we give up on,
Not adding it to the
Mystic.
Yes.
mixed use category.
Right.
Okay.
and that's what would happen naturally, I think. You know,
If
we-
you let it.
If we let it.
And that's the type of thing.
We're talking about letting it.
Yes. I think so.
All right, so same conversation for the mixed use town center.
Yeah.
Last month, we discussed perhaps that adjacent neighborhood commercial, the CN zoning district, maybe all that should be mixed use town center in the future.
So going west on Route 1.
Right.
And that's kind of what's represented on this draft map.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, where are we?
Along Route 1, going from Paquonic Bridge up towards 95.
Yeah,
You
okay.
can see it's all
Almost
sort of
up
the
here.
same type of use as opposed to
Right.
separating.
Are
it
you
from-
comfortable with that categorization?
The category meaning, should we expand it? Is that what the question is?
So
Making a village.
for the purposes of, actually, I should clarify, for the purposes of the future land use map, this is all part of that village center, town center, future land use category.
Right.
So in terms of the future land use map, you don't actually have to make that change. It's just in the text. Would you like to state that you're interested in the mixed use town center zoning expanding into the CN today? But in terms of the future land use map itself, they're all part of the same category. as
Right.
written.
But to expand on this question, do you want to expand it not necessarily along Route 1, but off of
Out,
Route
yeah.
1?
Well, and especially maybe on Route 1 too, because we have, is there any way to solve the problem that all of a sudden you have a neighborhood next to an oil change?
Well,
place,
that's,
you know,
well, that's just it. I mean,
that we could
That's our zoning
get into.
regulations.
that is
Yeah.
our zoning regulations. So, I mean, again, do you want to widen this? You know, as opposed to having it be a linear type.
So
I
yeah,
mean, again, you're getting into neighborhoods.
Yeah.
so-
you're getting into neighborhoods, but you know,
But they're
the
there.
corridor we talked about, and we've already discussed Route 12 and Route 1 is in there. You know, you can't go across that at times. Essentially, you're trying to solve a problem that is, to me, more complex because you have industrial and, you know, mixed use and retail and all these other things. So why not create villages within residential, right? If we have the ability to do so, I think that is a good idea. So,
I agree with Kevin.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea to
So
move into the sea.
What is that?
I don't see it becoming contiguous village center. I think it becomes little pockets along.
that's right.
So
Yeah.
where,
Right.
where the Lighthouse Shopping Center that has no lighthouse anymore, with a little shopping center, things like that. And what's across the street and what's a little bit to the left and right, that becomes a little walkable corridor.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean park there and then walk down to Stop and Shop, to walk up to Stop and
Right.
Shop or down to Big.
Yeah.
So maybe another.
And you see a lot of that in Northern Virginia and Maryland. We have these pockets of neighbors and they build around nice little, you know,
Right.
mixed use.
Now, given that, do we really want to make it wider up there? Because I don't know if we.
Well,
do.
I don't know
I
if
don't
we
know.
do,
I don't think we do.
and the thing is that it's not so much, to me, it's not it's the businesses that are there that become 24-hour businesses
Mm.
up against residential, which is a
Which is
problem.
already happening.
You know, if
Oh,
that,
yeah.
if, and it, maybe it's just a zoning thing, but that list of uses, I know that we were gonna, and I
It
kind
really
of
is a
dropped the
zoning.
ball on
It
that
is a
one, but
zoning.
it's, you know, we should pick out but then we need that as a separate zoning district, I think, in order to be able to do that.
In terms of widening it, I don't think we should. I think
Okay,
where it's the widest is where we want it to be the
So
widest.
the lines for where you want commercial development are already,
okay.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah,
Very
and
good.
it's
Yeah.
gonna only widen into somebody's house.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But that being said, I think that there are areas that would benefit from an MTC or an MVC designation. Already commercial areas, just changing the designation.
Right, and
Yeah.
so the nice thing about the way the future land use map is written today is that if, you know, 2 years from now, you said, yeah, we want to change this stretch of CN to MTC, that would be completely consistent with the future land use map.
Yep.
With that.
Yeah,
I would like to do that. I would
Okay.
like to make that I don't have the current map up, but I'm assuming it's CN right there. Along Route 12, right? And that between Route 12 and Pleasant Valley South, that's all commercial right now, butting up right up against neighborhood. It's 24-hour uses, which is very annoying. But at least if we called it MTC, we could get more, or MVC, right? We could get more of that village walkability design standard, something that creates that buffer and transition from commercial to neighborhood that's a little bit more compatible than just strip clubs next to single family homes.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you can always readdress your use table for zoning
Absolutely.
districts. And,
Yep.
All right, good. So Lauren had already brought up the Hazelnut Hill Road area. So that's, again, another one where we started this conversation last month. This is predominantly residential. There's still development potential there, and someone could theoretically come in today and propose an industrial use. Are we comfortable with that being the case in the future, or do you want to carve some of this out as residential in the future.
I'd carve it out as residential.
Yeah, I would too.
As much as I don't think it's a very handy place for residential to be. I think it has all the features of not being residential, but it's not becoming industrial. And let's go to what might happen. So need the space. I'm okay with it being residential of some kind.
Anybody else? Okay.
All right, so
There's
we'll
increasing,
discuss
there's
density on-
increasing uses
Yeah,
to
so
go.
that's the issue, and right now you allow multifamily housing here. Which would suggest to me that RM is the right, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's medium density, but you do allow. Or is it like our potential, or the intention is that you would change this to like an RE20 or something.
Yeah, I personally like the medium density, just given that there's no sewer up here.
Okay.
So, right, and it's
Yeah.
going to cost a good, it's only up to Pequot. And so
Right.
going all the way up to the cul-de-sac is.
Well, I guess one other thing to think about there, is the fact you've got a lot of acres, Holstein's property.
Yeah, that's right.
And I
Yeah.
think if that were to become like residential in there, and I understand a lot of it's wet, I know that, and all that, but there's still. If you could put maybe whatever apartment type buildings back there to some scale, it's acceptable. But develop that, because it's got that ridge in the middle of the property.
Sure.
Which makes it difficult to do. Just one thing. And then, of course, on the Flanders Road side,
Mhm.
you've got some access in there. You also have the town property there, of course.
But no utilities, but yes.
Right. But
Yeah, so I mean, that's the other consideration.
Yep.
I mean,
You
that's.
say this should be low density.
Well,
Or-
it's a lot of acres, and if there's anything we can do to help, put some of the housing we need maybe there. What's the
So-
plan about that?
If we went back to the slide that talked about the residential densities, because there's one that I think it was the medium on public sewer. So whether this would be medium or this would be low, again, we still have to change the zoning to that, because I think we'd only see somebody get to that medium level of residential development there if they extended the sewer line up the hill at their cost. At low density, it probably wouldn't make sense for them to do it. I'm sure GU would probably like to see residential development there be connected to sewer because it's so close to the reservoir. But maybe not from an infiltration standpoint. So I don't know, maybe that's an area we shoot for medium, not not high.
Not high and not low. Yeah, medium probably does make the most sense.
Because it is fairly sensitive too, in a way, there.
And the medium would encourage missing middle housing, not necessarily large complexes. And I think then when the commission says, hey, we're going to change the zoning 18 months from now, we could change it to our new missing middle housing district, or, whatever it is that we come up with, if that is your aspirational goal.
Yeah,
That's the old connector.
Got agreement on
Good.
I think so.
they do.
Yep.
Very good.
That makes sense. Good, I'm glad. Reaching consensus on some things. Dave, next slide, whenever you have or two more up. So one of these we've already agreed to. We've agreed earlier today that the Navy housing should be added to the medium density category. I believe everyone was generally on board with that. Likewise, Pleasant Valley School was more of a FYI because we are proposing the Aidenwood zone RM as part of that high density residential. And so therefore, since Pleasant Valley School has been changed to the RM, it is included in that category. It sounded like last month we're fairly comfortable with the Winding Hollow Road being added to that high density category as well. But wanted to confirm that.
Now, where was Winding Hollow?
It's off of Route 184. It's near the Antonino Preserve.
Oh, okay.
But you-
Oh, that one that goes into the
Right,
condos?
right. You can see the
Yeah.
condos that are.
That's right.
But then it's right next
Yeah.
to a yellow, you know, which
Yeah.
is a low density.
No, I know that one.
One other thing that has changed to high density on this map is the mobile home park that's off of Drosdick Drive and Buddington Road.
Mhm.
That did the math on it, and with all those mobile homes in there, it's a higher
High
density.
density, yeah.
And,
Right.
oh, right now you have it at low density.
That is a high density.
Just a question.
So somewhere in
Yeah,
here.
Gordon.
Yep. So I was able to
Your map, I don't
open
have-
that high res
We don't
map
have enough
from Bryce.
resolution to see more is 184 here, right? So show us four is up here. Oh, it's on that side, sorry.
Sorry, Kevin, are you,
No,
are you
go.
talk-
No,
Okay.
go ahead.
I was able to open that high res map and it did kind of clarify the confusion I had. So looking over at this change that's being proposed for Pleasant Valley, I noticed that the William Seeley School, which is already built, is not designated as high density. But
Yep.
Pleasant Valley, which nothing is built there right now. I know
Right,
it's future aspiration.
Yep, thank you, on the list.
So can we just go over where
Um,
Winding Hollow is again? Sorry, did I interrupt you? I didn't mean to, Lauren.
So we'll address that, Lauren. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks for bringing that up.
No, I'd also say I don't support changing Pleasant Valley to high density, but that's all.
We're just looking at it, sorry.
Yes, when Gold Star goes up like this.
Yeah,
This is the Antonino property,
right. And where's the new ore?
and this would be Winding Hollow.
The
Isn't here
ore, the
'cause
ore
it's-
property is blue shown on here because it's town owned. Again, that will also change.
Yeah,
That's like blue and pink, right?
Right.
okay.
It's partial pink and
here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So we agree that that should go high density?
Along Winding Hollow.
Yeah.
Well, it is high density.
Well, there's a portion of
It's
it that's
yellow.
shown as not as low density.
Yeah.
So
What is
Isn't-
exactly in that portion?
there are a couple,
Isn't
there's
this,
one single family house there, and there are two lots that do have single family homes, but they are up in the CN zone. It's away from Winding Hollow, but it's a very long lot. So
how much of that are we talking? Weren't there some foundations that were abandoned back there for a long time and then built? Was it?
yes. So that area. they do,
Okay,
Yes.
all right, so that makes sense.
So this is, make sure I'm doing it right, yeah. So it's like this bit of yellow.
No, okay, right.
And just so I understand, you're saying you want to move it from high density down to medium
No,
density or
The other way around.
the other way around? Okay.
Could you just show us where this meet, or somebody could, maybe Michael, you know,
This
is it
area,
this,
right around,
what's happening, the yellow?
Yeah.
There,
and that's correct, isn't it? And then it's got that green,
The
right.
yellow on top of the.
So it would seem like you'd want to almost fill that whole yellow
Right there.
then with.
I mean, it's tricky land, but still
So it's-
It's this.
you know.
It's just all
This is
around
Winding
it.
Hollow Road.
It's a good one.
Around the top of the green.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
It's a
That's
U
usually
shape, right?
open
Yeah,
space. It's
okay,
Dedicated
yeah.
open space.
Yes. Right.
Okay,
Okey-doke.
Okay.
I'm getting an okay here.
Right, next slide, please.
Change the town.
So this is when we are talking about other areas for further discussion. Last month, this group said SB Butler, yes. Mystic Education Center, yes. We had maybes from JJJ Realty and Shepherd of the Sea. And again, just wanted to open it up. Are there any other sites that you think might change over the course of the next 10 years, or you want to analyze over the course of the next 10 years? So you're not ready at this point to say it should be this category or this category.
Well, what about all the 9-acre parcels that are for sale? Do they need any zoning changes or anything?
Which,
Well, there's one down by Johnson's Hardware and
that's all in the mixed use village.
I mean, is that, I'm just asking
Yeah.
if that's really, you think it's okay?
I mean, I think
Do
those
anything?
uses are likely to happen.
Okay,
there.
and then the one, what, north of the senior center?
Yeah.
There's another 9-acre,
That's mixed use.
Right.
that's mixed use too. Okay.
I spent some time today driving by the JJJ Realty site, because I called Sue and asked her where exactly where it was, and I would say that ought to be on our list. I think that's a very interesting area that potentially could be developed, that area. It's kind of
Before
a
we talked about.
Yeah, there was
open areas and
there's
a
a
barn,
wonderful
old barn,
development.
yeah.
I think before your time.
Yeah,
It-
so I think it's, it said maybe
Yeah.
here, but I would say that's definitely something we ought to be looking at.
Where is JJJ?
Right here, it's right between the two big open space parcels.
It's the piece that.
It's
we
the
had a
80
preliminary
acres.
No,
Discussion.
Right across from the tree trails.
Yep, exactly.
Exact across the
That's
street
Tree
from there.
Trails.
Yeah.
And Wolfbrook and Pequot
Oh, okay,
Woods.
well,
There's a barn there now.
so that would I mean, we'd have to have that conversation, right?
Well, they were already coming in.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, they already
So-
talked to us.
They did, but their initial presentation was that it would be developed at the density allowed in the current zoning, just
Right.
different form.
Yeah,
So it may not be something that you need to study. I mean, they seemed comfortable with the zoning as it is in terms of density.
yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, the
Well,
only reason I'm interested is because that developer, did that townhouse project over at Perkins Farm in Stonington.
Mhm.
And if they could do something where you could have ownership and smaller units, if that's even feasible there.
Yeah.
That might be pretty interesting.
Cause it's a good section of land there
Yeah,
on the east side of Noank Ledyard Road, where this is. There's no houses there right now, but then down a little bit further, there are some single family
That's right.
houses.
Yeah.
So you may have a buffer between that
Yeah,
and the single
absolutely.
family houses, but there's lots of woods there too, so. It just seems like a logical place to put something.
Sure, but
Yeah.
I mean, the question is this an area you want to designate for future study by this commission? And I.
Right, are you comfortable having it developed?
I guess, I don't know that you need
Yeah.
to.
yeah, I think what's gonna happen or it's
Yeah,
not, right?
yeah.
So
Then
then,
like,
maybe Bill Sweeney would know whether or not it's of interest,
Well,
Yeah.
so we don't need to study it more. I think it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, not that I'm arguing against it, they had
Yeah.
a wonderful plan and
Yeah.
everything.
So I think the question really, so that we're gonna see an application for that theoretically soon. They're
Ah.
coming to talk to you about a zone text, different things
Yeah.
before they submit an application, they need to, amend zoning. So I think, or the subdivision regulations or both potentially, if you're happy with generally what they're proposing, we don't need to change anything
okay,
on the future land use map. If you want them to do smaller houses or owner, I mean, they're looking at a different model. I don't know if the zoning would need to be the same density or more density. If you wanted tiny houses there, they would probably need more density from a zoning perspective. So I think some of it is, what are you looking for there? And does it match with what their vision is?
But that's what, we're kind of looking for more density or smaller houses in general. And I guess the thing about that, their house prices, they thought were gonna be 500,000 to 900,000. So that wouldn't be our missing middle or.
Hardly
be
affordable,
above.
right?
and the only way you're gonna do that is the way you're gonna get the price to come down is build smaller houses.
Yeah, no, exactly, have a zone change, but.
Which
that's fine.
Non-inclusionary zone.
So let's see what they say, right?
Yeah, after all, they're coming in
Yeah.
with a plan though, it's a little bit late, I think,
For us to,
maybe, I don't know, sounds like it,
So
but.
I wouldn't be me if I didn't make this pitch, but on the conservation side of what our mandate is, where in District 4 can we conserve space? Because it is absolutely abundantly clear that there's a lot of density, but not a lot of conserved space.
Yes, no, that was what jumped out at me when I looked at this map initially. I mean, obviously the city and we don't see no ink, but there's no green over. This is
There's
like,
no great, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
green
no,
is missing.
I'd like to see Pleasant Valley, the school, be designated as a future study as well, alongside the other two school properties that are on here. Hammers aren't swinging. Nothing is officially approved.
would like
I
to-
have not seen anywhere else. No one has pointed out any other property that could potentially be conserved.
Oh,
So
yes, there is. There's one that's already conserved that just needs access. That's a wonderful property. It's huge, Gunjiwam.
yeah.
And that's worth working on. That's a conversation with the state.
And one of the things we are trying to not identify properties that we want to conserve on the POCD because we don't want to necessarily put those on developers' radar. I mean, there's properties right now that in that general vicinity that we are in active negotiations and discussions about from a conservation perspective. So there are other pieces we're looking at.
Sure. Maybe I'm using conservation too broadly. I'm speaking, of course, about active recreation.
Yep.
Is
No,
there
that's
anywhere
what-
we can study for active recreation?
Yeah, those Gunjawant properties, you can go hiking there. There's a lake there. There's a lot of things there.
Parks, playgrounds, fields. That's the specific amenity that is lacking.
No, I know, but that's why I need my map of where they are.
They're not there. The map's not going to help you. They don't exist in this
No,
district.
but I think, Lauren, that's an easier thing to fix than getting another big chunk of open space and, that
Mhm.
particular area.
that's-
But I
That's
want
my
you to-
point, Sue, is if
No,
we're
but,
studying areas,
please,
I want to
Lauren.
study for that use.
Just let me finish, please. But please rest assured, I think all of us are very interested in making sure that happens, hopefully soon, or maybe later. Maybe with Gunjawant, if they cooperate, we can figure out how to protect the delicate ancient things that are there. But I think there's tons of potential, and I think it's really on our radar, a lot of us for sure. It's not like we've forgotten your district.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But that's why I'm trying to see it translated into the official documents of the town.
Right.
So it remains on the radar for the next 10 years. Hopefully
Right.
resolved within 10 years, right?
Yeah, I
But
think
officially documented.
So going back to that JJJ site, it sounds to me like we just opened to seeing what they're gonna come up with, and then we can make some decisions on that and not necessarily have to make any changes in the land use map.
no, it may not.
So
They
the
have-
answer would be, why would it be on this list?
They have a plan they
Pick it up.
like, so, and it is a pretty good plan. From
So
a-
it's really not a maybe, it's a no.
From the first
It's what I'm
glance.
hearing.
Yep.
And to Lauren's suggestion, how do people feel about marking Pleasant Valley School as an area for future study as opposed to marking it as RM or for high density residential?
Yeah.
So right now, the town council has authorized that property for sale. They've authorized the signing of a purchase and sales agreement. Yes, we don't have an approved application. Hammers are not swinging out there yet, but the town council, the stewards of the ownership of that property have indicated that it's going to be developed into multifamily housing. So I'm sorry, Lauren, to respectfully disagree, but it's for all practical purposes, that's what it's going to be in the future. If they backed out of it and the council changed their mind, that would be something different. But that's when we're looking at the future land use map, we want to reflect what's on the ground or what's going to happen in the future. And right now, all indications are pointing towards multifamily residential on that property. And I don't think it needs to be further studied.
Where else could we future study then for this need in this district? Right. I want it documented. That's my whole point, is that throughout these discussions leading up to that specific sale agreement, the entire town was assured that we're looking at lots of parcels. There's lots of spaces we're looking at. I've yet to see any identified. So I want to study it. I want to know, and I want to document that it's being studied.
Yeah, I mean, so the areas that are shown on this map, the draft map as future study, are areas where this commission is not sure what the future land use should be.
Yeah.
It's not to determine where certain things could go necessarily. It's just these parcels, you're not sure what it should be.
Right. Right. No, that's exactly right. And I think with looking for the possibility access to Gunjawant, that's in the list of to-dos, I think, on our big sheets here. And that will definitely be a hot item. A lot of people want that, believe me, because it's such a great place to hike in. So that's where it is right now. At least it's on there and it'll be a priority. So
Yeah. So I guess why are we even talking about Shepherd of the Sea then? If it's already been decided?
Oh,
No,
no, but Pleasant Valley.
No, Pleasant Valley, not Shepherd of the Sea.
Yeah.
Shepherd of the Sea is privately owned right now.
Oh, I thought that's what you were
No, Pleasant Valley.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Pleasant Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right, because I didn't think that we'd have any conversation about that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
So
But
what's,
speaking of Shepherd by the Sea,
Yeah,
the sea,
speaking of that.
do you see a need for future study there? Do you see a need potentially for a different land use category?
well, what's it categorized as?
So, yeah, so let's talk about Shepherd of the Sea.
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
Shepherd of the Sea is a chapel and a community center that was owned by the Navy. The Navy determined it was excess property, put it up for auction. It is now in private hands. Okay. When it was owned by the Navy, zoning didn't matter. All right.
Right.
Right now, it is zoned RU20. Okay, so it's a residential zone. It's surrounded by Navy housing, and Navy housing across the street. So is this property, do you need to like study it to determine what the land use should be? Are you comfortable with what the land use might be? I mean, should it remain, I think it's medium density? Yeah. Should it be turned to high density? I don't know.
Backs up to the credit union.
It does. It does.
The credit union and little exchange building, so.
Right, but I mean, do you need to study it in order to determine
Yeah.
what you think? the
Sometimes
future
a
land use
property
would be?
like that, you get prejudiced because it's been this thing, right? And then I think somebody was gonna use it for a wedding venue there for a while, but you know, if the building weren't there, how would you look at it then? Because probably that building isn't practical for a lot of uses. You know, the way that it's, you know, A-frame is about the worst.
I think it would have been a
Or
really cool
something.
rock gym, but now the building is
Yeah.
in substantial disrepair.
Could go Nordic something. I don't know.
I mean, but so then you have to like think of it minus the building,
Well,
probably.
question is staff, so what do you see it as?
Because there's two things about the
Two.
building, whether it's the building is three buildings.
Hmm.
It was actually kind of four, because the A-frame is a thing of itself with a little attached chapel. And then there's other classrooms, and then there's another little fellowship hall, and those are very separate things. And those are, I believe, are completely disasters.
Hmm.
The A-frame might look like a disaster, but the roof itself probably should still be in pretty good shape because it was redone not too long ago.
There's
The
been-
windows were not.
Doesn't get any wear. It's a rough edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been fires inside the building. There's been a lot of, there's been people living in it. The building is degrading
Does the
rapidly.
owner come to you all at all?
Oh, yeah, I mean, we've had we're working on enforcement matters with them. There's a history to it.
Okay.
They've had it for sale on and off for the
Oh.
last number of years, and all of the inquiries we get are, okay, we want to do multifamily here. And it's not allowed.
really?
And then there's an issue with utilities, sewer. It's a Navy-owned sewer line there. There was a requirement for the chapel to disconnect from that within 5 years of acquiring it, although it sounds like the Navy might be open to reconsidering that.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, all the inquiries we've gotten is multifamily.
Right. And do you think that's a good use for that land, given that, I don't know the topography of it that well?
I think, it's 13 acres, but
Yeah.
what you see as developed is probably all that you are
That's
going to
all,
get. The
yeah.
rest is
Uh-huh.
wet.
Okay,
Yeah, and it's likely filled wetlands in a good portion of it.
backs up to that brook and.
Well,
Exactly.
if you walk the property, if you walk to the edge, you see where the gravel goes down into skunk cabbage. Like you can
Yeah.
see what was filled wetlands.
Yeah, right now it's shown as low density on your draft map. It's adjacent to medium density. And it's adjacent to Navy housing that we haven't categorized yet.
Yeah.
Its density. So it certainly makes sense to at least do one of those two densities and get it out of the
If we were to
way.
categorize the Navy housing, that would be medium density, well, properties are, it's the whole property, so.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's done the math yet.
But if we do
Yeah.
that kind of townhouse thing, it probably would come into medium if you did that kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
townhouse.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
just it.
You're saying medium or high density?
Yeah, medium probably.
It's medium matches the kind of
one
of
that's
housing
open.
that they do.
Right.
It provided its sewers.
Well, they'll have.
That
to
would
work
have to
that
be,
out.
yeah,
They'll have to
yeah.
work that out. But that is telling me you don't need to study it.
Yeah,
Since
no,
they're kind of coming to a.
no, I think
conclusion.
that's, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Just it.
Like-
Everybody agrees?
Yeah, agree.
Okay. Okay.
Medium density or Shepherd.
Okay.
Wow. Who would have thunk we got that far? It's good.
So those are all the questions we prepared. Again, open it up. Was there anything else that people saw that like, geez, I question whether this should be in a different category? Or are there other areas that you think we should include for future study?
One thing, and I don't even know if it belongs here or not, but at some point and whether we need to study it, but when the state, and I don't think they've made a decision yet, decides on how they're going to build pedestrian bridge, add a pedestrian crossway on the Groton Bridge.
The Gold Star?
Yeah. And so because I don't even know if they've decided which bridge they're going to put it on, but that's something that's coming. And whether or not we need to like find a path
Yeah, most of that's.
when it lands in Groton.
City.
Well, it
The
could,
land-
I was wondering if it wouldn't come into like where the Sealy School is in that area, if that's a potential.
It could, but I don't know that it belongs on this map.
Okay, all right. I just
Yeah.
wanted to throw it
Yep,
out there because I think it's something that has been off the radar, but like when that comes, we
Yep.
should be ready for it, I hope. And that's it.
Well, what about larger town properties? And as an example, there's that one I talked about before on the Flanders Road, just south of I-95. And
Like
was that about
17,
17?
yeah, 16 plus acres, yep.
Beautiful forest, that's for sure. And there's state land, I think that little triangle there.
Left over right away from 95, yep.
But are there other things like that where the town owns it? And this is zoned IM, right? Are there other places that the zoning doesn't make sense? Or, I mean, at least with IM now it's changed too, but.
So nothing that large, but we have noticed a number of little parcels that were taken in foreclosure. If you look on North Road, 117 up close to Ledger, there's this little blue dot. And changing that kind of thing to, you know, what the density is around it rather than, because the town's not gonna put an institutional use on a property that small. Took it in foreclosure, more than likely, at some point it
Right.
will be sold.
Yep,
So those kinds of things we're going to clean up.
okay, maybe we can see if there's no playground nearby or something like that. This may be an opportunity to have a pocket park, for
Is
a
that right
neighborhood.
back of Penny? Is that,
No, oh, no, that actually.
This one that you're,
I don't know, blue?
That one actually is owned by Groton Utilities.
Oh, it
It's a
is.
pump station of sorts
Yeah.
there. No, it's further, it's closer to Ledger.
Okay.
it just looks like somebody's, just a parcel, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it
a
is.
couple of acres.
Yeah.
So there's a few of those that we'll probably
Mhm.
clean up, but,
So kind of that leads, because actually I was thinking about this, I made the comparison. I spoke with Bryce this week. You know, is there something that we're doing on the map that also fits in the matrix, right? Is there a direct overlap? And if you look at the 3.2 categories, right, where the town needs a holistic approach, and in some ways, it's at least, you know, 3 of these, right? And maybe the things that the parcels that Sue is talking about or Deb has referenced, we still don't have a holistic approach, in my opinion, as far as this is concerned, including the disposition of former schools. So that master plan seems to hinder us time and time again. So to me, there's a direct influence on, as we decide this map, of the inability for the town to embrace the holistic approach. And you know, I don't know how we say it any different, but it's a weakness. Because we can talk about this, you can do studies, and the answer is if we don't have a good plan, you know, when we lobby or effectively ask for something in District 4 or in, you know, Mystic, there's no big plan. So it becomes these individual efforts and the town doesn't seem to fit.
Right, and that is, I think that's a really good point, and it's why it highlights the importance of that strategy.
Right.
And it also highlights why you're struggling to make these
Exactly.
decisions
That's
right
it.
now.
Right.
And so that's, I think, you know, in much the same way that you're saying, we know that Butler and Mystic Education Center require that master plan, that analysis. There are a number of these other town-owned properties that fall into that same category, maybe
Sure.
less urgently. And again, you may not have an answer now, and it's just they're institutional for now until you tackle that strategy and have that plan and that system for making this decision, we're ranking the priorities for the reuse of these properties.
And I think there's also a difference between, needing to look at that strategy or that master plan for an SB Butler, a Mystic Ed Center, and taking a big step back and doing that master plan versus how do we identify if there's land or the need for a park in a neighborhood or a certain district that's not currently owned by the town. That's something that we have to keep our eyes open for. Is it something that I know the town manager has been working with the Board of Ed? I think it's looking at some of the land on the Mary Morrison site about, all right, how can we do more recreation there? That's not necessarily something we can figure out on the future land use map, but in the specific sections of the POCD, we talk about the need to look at our disposition process or the need to find more recreation land in District 4 and some of those types of things. So that's, I think, how we'll address those.
Okay. I just don't feel, I don't see the value where, groups of residents have to keep coming up time and time again because the town doesn't have a holistic approach. And I think we would all benefit if we somehow try to solve the bigger problem. That's, I guess, it's a big words, but we're in the game for the moment, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't like telling people, hey, we're not working on that right now, again and again. And we have people in neighborhoods around some of these properties that are, feel very disconnected from us, or what do they hide? It's like, no, we're really not working on that stuff right now. And it would be great to have a holistic approach. And, our intent is once the POCD is adopted, we'll have the time to then ask for the time, the funding, the resources to do more holistic approaches to some of these other properties so that, there's a better process.
Sure.
That's agreement across the board. That was one of those strategies at the open house that I think literally no one possibly.
So, and one, I guess, last thing, I guess I'd like to have another look on the roads that were proposed. There's just a couple of places, because I think a lot of us don't have the background on why, and I know there was some people in some of the neighborhoods where these roads were, that were in one of the meetings that this was presented, weren't happy to see a road there and stuff like that, but I just like to understand the basis of where it came from, because it's kind of like they have this dropped on something. I don't know what, I think this road came up like a long time ago, the one that goes just south of I-95.
Yeah,
It's like, that was about
the
20
connector road.
Yeah, 25 years ago or something like that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, these are taken from the 2016. plan.
Oh, okay.
We eliminated ones where the land uses have made it impossible to extend. And these are just taken from that and placed on here. So,
Okay.
yeah, have a discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do some more study on this.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
And where's this other one? There's a few of them here.
There's a couple. Yeah, there's the connector road.
no.
There's one that goes.
Yeah,
from-
this one.
Where's that? That's
It goes.
Mumford.
No, it's Pillville.
It's right in Noank. It goes from, I mean, the roads in Crosswinds were
Yeah,
left
Crosswinds.
with a right of way to continue the road over to Fishtown.
Oh,
So that's what that
Oh.
demonstrates.
Oh, and then
okay.
this one.
And then there's one up in the Fieldcrest area.
Yeah,
That's.
That, again, there's a stub up there on Whittle Road that was left, when this thing was approved a gazillion years ago. And so that just shows going through the what's owned by Whittle right now over to, I think, Yetter. Is that Yetter or Godfrey?
Yeah, so that's.
That's Godfrey, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Godfrey.
And then there's the one up in the northeast corner from.
Who would build those roads?
Who built
Would
which
they,
roads?
like that one there, right? So from,
Who would build it?
yeah, would that be a town-built road or? Right.
All of this would be
Oh.
if a big subdivision came in,
Oh.
it would be, okay, you're not putting a cul-de-sac there, you're gonna have to put a through road through. That's what this demonstrates.
connectivity is a lot better than having more cul-de-sacs. So
Yeah, no,
that
I
really-
get it, but do we need to identify how that land is gonna be developed?
Well, you do. You call it
Potentially.
Residential rural on this
Yeah.
draft. So
And just indicating that we want that road to continue because we,
if there's a development, there's only, there's now 2 ways in and out of the Fieldcrest development. It's a lot, no, 3, Ann Avenue. But there's, you know, it's a lot of houses there with not, they all essentially go out to
Yeah,
Cow Hill Road,
yeah.
so.
so again, this is not something that the town would have to build. It's not something that
Okay.
We're
But
gonna-
by having it on this map, does that give us some sort of like legal standing or
It,
something?
it gives us leverage if, I mean, you know, if the Whittles ever decide they're not farming anymore and they, you know, they decide they're going to do a big subdivision here, we will point to this and say, okay, but it's not all gonna be cul-de-sacs, you're gonna have to do a
Right.
through road
Yeah.
just for emergency purposes and
Okay.
that's how we use it.
You might have another one, it's so small, people will miss it, so you can put it in, no one will notice. I'm kidding, but it was that the Rensselaer project was going to put in, which was
Oh, yeah,
right
that's
to that
interesting.
intersection of Cow Hill and Allen Street, which is actually Mystic, and it went to the diagonal
Mm.
up to the oral school, which was a wonderful idea.
Hmm.
And they still own the property, but it allowed whatever development there not to use what miserable little exit
Right.
existing roads are on. So I would love to see that little connector there.
Thanks.
No. It,
so
I
the,
mean, we'd have to draw it through somebody's property.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
It's their
I
property.
mean, this is, right, we don't make them do it,
It was Rensselaer's idea. They.
No, I don't, but I'm just wondering, maybe somebody else would develop that and then they would have a better place to put it.
and that's fine. I mean, these are not cast in stone. This is generally, you're not putting in cul-de-sacs. You've got to do a through road. You know, if it shifts 500 feet one way or the other, fine.
Okay, I would be more comfortable if those little gray dots were a lot wider. Just so that it's clear that it's not like we're drawing a line where that road is gonna be and it's more of just a general
And
area.
that is where the description of what this future land use map comes into. In the 2016, we included it in your packet. It's not just the map. It's the section before it that says, this is what we mean by future roads.
Uh-huh.
This is what we mean by greenways. This is what low density is. And so I think that's key is having a good description of everything that's in this legend.
I think maybe the word propose is a little bit strong. Proposed vehicular roadway connections. Maybe
Possible.
We say possible.
Possible vehicular.
It's carried over
like
from the last.
potential, how about
Sure.
potential?
Yeah,
It's
something,
desired.
yeah.
Desired is.
Yeah.
Say.
better, yeah.
Yeah, say potential, honey, you need a
Possible.
subdivision.
Possible.
Sure.
Because the possibilities could be they could be
Yeah.
possibly
Someone
somewhere
said,
else, right?
You know that you're now under a desirable category. What happened?
Yeah.
I could,
Yeah, I don't think we're proposing anything other than that what we're proposing is that if you do develop this, there's got to be a road that gets you out of there, some other,
Gives them.
like, that's our,
that's right.
That's exactly.
so, and where it is, it's just, you know, it's almost like you could draw an area around, a circle around this and say, this needs a second exit.
Right, but
Or
we didn't want to make it
connectivity.
too busy, so that's why it's.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah,
That's why I don't like
You could
propose.
just have
Yeah, I would,
arrowheads in either one, just to indicate that this is a connector from here to there.
Yep.
Nothing else.
yeah, that might be a better way to, instead of
So,
dots, if they were arrows or
Well,
something,
there's
you know,
something to be there, but
so it doesn't look like a road being
maybe
designed.
use the same symbols as 16, because that's exactly what it is. It's like a thing with 2 arrows on the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, it just visually might
Yeah. Yeah.
mislead someone
Yep.
into thinking that
Yeah.
Yep.
we expect the road to be built
Yep.
here.
so what's next? Cause I think maybe we'll take a little break or something.
I think we're down at 6:30.
So that's, yeah, so that's the question. Do you
Weren't
want
we
to
going
go
till seven?
with the
So-
next two?
6:30.
For the implementation matrix, again, there was no expectation that we discussed that in any
Okay.
great detail this evening. We wanted to get it in front of you because we had a draft ready. That was always on the agenda for the January.
Oh, that was great. Glad you did that. So the meeting's only till 6:30?
Well,
That's
we,
what
this is when we.
Yeah, my
had-
calendar is
But
7:30.
obviously well, yes, we had.
You can't get enough, that's the thing.
Right, so yes, you're in charge and we can stay.
No, I'm not.
We thought we were staying till midnight. Come on.
Have we,
So the other thing to do is there's the public feedback. I mean, the big takeaway from November 19th, we analyzed the dots that people put up, and the vast majority were supportive of everything. And in fact, there are a number of chapters where not a single dot was put on I do not support. So that's our indication that for the people who showed up, at least, we're on the right track. There were, of course, some specific comments, and we're compiling those. I have not yet seen responses to the online survey. I don't know if
Right.
anyone's had a chance to look at those yet.
That's right, yeah.
So that's coming as well. Deb, would you like to lead a conversation around some of the categories of public feedback that we've received in writing?
I think, don't you have a slide?
Yeah, we have slides for this.
Yeah, exactly.
So go back to the. Yeah. Sorry, next one.
So.
There we go.
Right, so in addition to the information and the feedback we've gotten from the focus group conversations, the open house, the online surveys, you've gotten about 7 or 8 written communications from folks, right? And so we just kind of categorize them rather than saying, okay, let's talk about, Groton Conservation Advocates thing. We just kind of categorize them. And wanted to have a discussion about whether you want to make any changes to the document based on folks who have given you feedback.
All right, is this our package, this one?
This is just sort of a generalization of the things that are in your packet. So you heard from a couple of folks about, how are you going to coordinate with other plans that are going on? What about missing middle? What about climate friendly Groton?
So you've gotten all the specific comments
Yeah.
that we've received. We tried to categorize it into kind of groupings. And, keeping in mind, as Deb said, we've received comment from 7, 10 people in writing, emails, maybe multiple times. How does, when you're thinking about those comments, also weighing those with the hundreds of people that have participated in surveys and open houses and other things that we've been doing over this time? And from what you've seen, the feedback you've gotten, the open houses, the surveys, the focus groups, the written comments, do any of those bring up issues that make you want to change something in the current draft? Also thinking about some of the comments we get are so specific that impact zoning more than they do what should necessarily be in the POCD.
Right, exactly.
And I think that one, the latter may take some more conversations because it's pretty dense. That whole bit.
And it's.
That's a start on
It may
that.
not be something that's appropriate for the POCD.
No,
It may
that's
be
right.
something to consider when you are looking at zoning regulations for certain types of uses or certain areas.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I think tonight getting these bubbles and getting the other areas, to consider, that was a huge step forward.
I would say
Yeah.
that the comments that we received from Diane, I found myself nodding yes to a lot of her comments. She had a lot of questions also, and maybe those are, but I value her input.
Right.
Although I thought that a lot of those were zoning related, not necessarily land use related. They're very specific.
Yeah, some of them were.
But I think all those, it wouldn't hurt to have another.
No, but I would like
Yeah.
to, that certainly was something that was useful.
Yeah, and I was just wondering if we're going to invite people who make comments to come to an open meeting where we can have a back and forth a bit, or if you think that's a really bad idea.
Again, we have our open houses. You come to those open houses. I think that's the appropriate venue for the back and forth conversation with people. And, it's whether it's one person in town who's an expert on land use, their opinion as one person shouldn't outweigh the opinion of many others who've said different things. So that I want you all to keep that in mind as well, that, an expert versus someone else whose voice carries louder. It shouldn't be one versus the other. It's weighing all of these things, and then you get to make the decision of how things eventually move forward.
Personally, I'd like I'd like a little more time, before looking at the implementation matrix and the comments. I think we could have time over the next month before we meet again, to be able to do that and then pick that up again, because I think we've made a lot of progress tonight in terms of covering a lot of ground and the big issues that were on Jeff's list. And these two kind of are, I think, another bite at the apple.
So we have an open house scheduled.
For the 15th, and we also have another steering committee meeting scheduled in January. Yeah, right.
26th or so, yeah.
So it makes sense to have that open house first, then bring it all together.
So the 15th is the open house, and when is the steering?
Last Monday.
Yeah.
In
The last Monday in January.
Yeah,
It's the 26th.
okay,
Okay.
for the,
Then if-
for this group, right, for this, okay,
Bring that up there.
right.
We'll have the open house too.
So the open
Yeah.
house is first.
Right.
Right.
Kinda-
And so when you're, when you're looking at all the comments, everything that Jeff has provided in terms of open house, focus groups, and, actually, we probably should send all of those analyses again.
Oh, that would be
I
great,
think,
actually.
if you can group those together and
Yeah.
just get them to me at some point, because I know Jim is new, he hasn't gotten any of it, and you guys, it's been months since you've looked at it, right?
Oh,
but-
yeah, and it was so dense getting into the
Right.
comments here.
I
And I
know.
think it'd be good to get the rest of it.
And when you're looking at them, your thought should be, is there something in the document is this so big and, oh yeah, of course, should we change it in the document, or is this an issue for, a zoning rewrite, a zoning change?
Or a
So-
specific property.
or is it a specific property, and is that something that's appropriate for the P O C D, or is that, when we're acting as the zoning commission?
Yeah.
Yep, good, okay, that sounds.
And I think John's right, I
plan.
mean, just give equal weight to
Right.
everybody,
Well,
right?
it'd be good to see the rest,
Yeah.
the comments from the public and all that.
Okay,
And that's where
Certainly, I just, her letters were in
Get it.
particular,
totally
know,
get it.
a lot of
lot
detail,
of detail,
put a lot of time into it.
lot of effort
Yep.
to it. And it was more than one comment, so.
Oh,
you know,
definitely.
Sure.
Yep.
And I wasn't necessarily nodding yes to everything.
Understood, but not everyone else is an
Yeah.
expert like Diane.
Yeah.
So they may not be able to make the case in the language that you all are used to hearing.
In an articulate way, that's essentially,
Right.
right.
Because,
We're in litigation, so in litigation, you do listen to subject matter experts, right?
yes,
But that's not the game here, right?
I mean,
Keep it that way.
right now, you want to weigh all of the studies, all the data, the baseline report that we have, all of that information, and all of the people that we've heard from, weighing that equally, knowing that we've been trying really hard to hear from people that aren't normally engaged in this process, that have needs and have wants in town, but aren't reflected in the POCD. And how do we do a better job of not just representing the 300 people that communicate and show up, but the other, 37,700 or so that live here that we don't hear from. And just and again, this is a problem in every municipality that does POCDs, comp plans, master plans. How do we learn and represent those that don't show up and weigh that against the people that you hear from a lot,
Yeah.
angry people in the room? And that's where you have to think about, all right, well, what did this study show us? What did this data, this housing market analysis, and the things that you know and the needs of through this process? So
Right, and remember that you are planning and zoning commissioners for the whole town, not for your
Yes,
neighborhood, not for
Exactly.
What?
someone who's really loud about their neighborhood. It is
Like predisposition, and that's what you're talking about then?
the entire town.
That's it. We're not the RTO.
There you go.
That's what I keep saying.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know.
That's a very good point. I'm not saying I'm gonna use it for litigation.
I know.
Very good.
I mean, everybody has knowledge of their neighborhood.
I'm
so
saying,
get
but
me
that's
wrong.
exactly the point.
Yeah.
We're not elected, and that we represent the town.
Yeah.
We're qualified for the town, not for a particular district.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for all your time, study, staff too, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's a lot of work.
You too, Jeff. Thanks. Yeah. I know you guys are up for a lot of work and I think it was really a productive, session.
We got through a lot tonight. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it.
With, I think, some really good outcomes. Yeah,
We have to officially end this meeting.
yes, we did. Is there a motion to, is everybody ready?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Brain is fried.
Second.
Okay, second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, yes.
Right.
Thanks.
All right, good.